It is High School Football Wednesday. We're finally here. It's the opening week of the 2024 high school football season. Of course, Tobacco Road Sports Radio is your home for everything high school sports. I'm Desmond Johnson from the Weds Journal. Marc Pruitt joining me. He's going to outline his biggest games you can look forward to this Friday. Tobacco Road has not one, not two, not three, but 4 games live that you can choose from this Friday starting at 7 p.m. It's Wednesday. It's the Desmond Johnson Show. Let's go.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the Tigers, Carolina Blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And we are in on a Wednesday Night Lights high school football preview. You can catch it every Wednesday during the football season here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on the Desmond Johnson Show. Marc Pruitt with me, beat writer for the Winston-Salem Journal. Before we begin, I need to mention a few things. We are brought to you by Emergency Responders Credit Union. If you are a first responder in the area, definitely check them out, 1777 Link Road. They can help you with all of your banking needs here in Winston-Salem. And if you were looking for the episode of The Nest from last night, our season 6 premiere with head coach Todd Willard of East Forsyth and offensive coordinator Ronnie Horton, their defensive coordinator was on as well. I tried to check the recording this morning and it was messed up. So I can't even post it as a podcast. So if you didn't hear it live last night, you're not going to be able to hear it. We'll get you the next episode next week. East Forsyth taking on Heritage this Friday at the Nest. We'll have that on Tobacco Road Sports Radio as well. Marc, we've been waiting on this week all summer. It's finally here. I'm sure you're not very busy this week at all. No.
Not at all. It's just a lazy week this week, actually. So
yeah. Just a nice little relaxing little week here.
Not a lot going on. You know?
Yeah. So we're normally what we end up doing, we're going to having Marc usually previews 3 games to look forward to in the triad, and there's a couple to really look at, and we'll have some of these games. So without further ado, we're just going to get into it so we can get you guys in and out during your lunch period here on a beautiful Wednesday here in the Triad. Marc, give us game number 1 you're looking forward to here in the Triad come Friday.
I'm so glad that it's finally here, Desmond. It's a great time of the year for me, for I know all the football people out there. So I think the one everybody's talking about to start us off, Mount Tabor at Grimsley.
Oh, yes.
Probably 2 of the top teams in this area in 4A for sure. I know Grimsley is ranked in some of the state polls that I've seen in the top 5, some top 10. Tabor's right there, I think, in the top 10 or top 12 from what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm going to go pull the Max Preps poll that just came out not too long ago here while you're talking.
At least 5 players have already committed to Division I schools, and I'm talking major D1 programs here. Tabor's got Jadon Blair from Notre Dame. Snook Peterkin committed last Friday to Virginia Tech to play football and basketball. Matthias Banks is another linebacker, defensive lineman, and I think he's going to play some tight end too. He's committed to Princeton. Matthias missed a lot of the season last year with an injury. I think he got hurt in the West Forsyth game, week 5 or 6. So he's really hungry to get back out there for Mount Tabor. And then at Grimsley, you're talking about Faison Brandon, the quarterback. I think a lot of scouting services has him as the number 1 overall recruit for the class of 2026. So he's just a junior.
Yeah, he just got raised to a 5-star. Also, I saw that rivals him and 2 other kids got moved up from 4 to 5. So,
and he's committed to Tennessee already. And then of course Bryce Davis, who's committed to Clemson, defensive lineman, linebacker, who also missed I think about half the season last year with injury.
Yeah,
committed. He's going to the ACC in Clemson, and I'm sure he's hungry to get back out there this year as well. So, and we can't forget about Mitchell Summers, the running back from Grimsley, who rushed for over 2,000 yards and 40 touchdowns last year. I think the interesting thing for me is the matchups. Grimsley, both of the wide receivers from last year are off to NC State and North Carolina, Alex Taylor and Terrell Anderson. So are they going to be more one-dimensional now? Faison can run it and throw it, and I think we all know that. How much are they going to rely on Summers, and do they have that outside game to kind of stretch the field to allow him to run through those open lanes? So Mount Tabor is seasoned, 14 starters back from a team that went to the third round of the playoffs last year. Lane Albright, quarterback, is in his second year. He just joined the team last summer in late July, so he really didn't have much of an off season with Mount Tabor last year. Still ended up throwing for, I think, 1,600, 1,700 yards and 15, 16 touchdowns. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but Zion Thompson, running back, is the top returning rusher in the Central Piedmont Conference. Went for about 1,300 yards last year. A lot of offensive linemen back for the Spartans. So I got to spend some time with the Mount Tabor coaching staff Sunday afternoon, watching them prepare for Grimsley. And they're ready. They're hungry. I'm sure Grimsley's. I think everybody's ready. It's Friday night. It's go time. So we're interested to see this one Friday night.
And we have that game. It's our WCOG Guilford County game of the week. Pre-game with Chase Williams and James Willoughby at 7:00. Kickoff at 7:30 live from Jameson Stadium in Greensboro. So that's one of our 4 games we'll be broadcasting on Friday night through Tobacco Road. If you're in Guilford County, you can hear it on 103.5 FM or 1320 AM out in Guilford County, or just pull your phone out, hit 2 buttons, and you can listen to it through the Tobacco Road stream. I am a little curious about Grimsley. We've heard the curiosity in terms of what will the offense look like with both of those wide receivers gone. I know from talking to the coaches and some folks in the area that they are very happy with the JV kids that they're bringing up from their JV squad. I believe they were undefeated last year. So they do have talent in the well. So it's just a matter of us getting introduced to the new names, which happens at every high school every couple of years. But Grimsley's kind of in that place where East Forsyth was like in 2016, 2017, where it's like, okay, we see you've had success, you've been in the big spotlight, that kind of thing. Can you sustain it? Can you keep going class after class after class, as opposed to it being one class over 3 years that had all the dominance or whatnot? So that's kind of where they are right now with some new blood. It helps to have a kid like Mitchell Summers in the backfield that you can kind of lean on and rely on. Grimsley, we'll know a lot about Grimsley after the first 3 weeks of the season, because they start off with Mount Tabor. They go to Rollsville next week. We'll have that game as well. And then they come back here and host a feisty Reagan team that's given them everything they could handle the past couple of years. We've had that game every year, and it feels like it always comes down to the wire. So after we get past week 3 and kind of see where the smoke is settled, we'll know a lot more about Grimsley than we know going into this game right now. Same kind of with Mount Tabor. We'll kind of know a little bit more about them after week 3 also. So that's probably the biggest game in the triad that I can think of off the top of my head. Give me game number 2 from Prep beat writer Marc Pruitt from the Winston-Salem Journal.
I'm always interested in East Forsyth, so we'll go there.
All right. That's where I will be.
Heritage coming to town. Don't really know what to expect with Heritage. I think 4-6 or 7 last season. They lost a lot of their top offensive players. And East, of course, always has the shiny new toys every year. And they were loaded last season with talent pretty much everywhere. And I know talking with Coach Willard a couple times this summer, you got Bryce Baker back, second year in the system, already committed to Carolina. Wide receiver core with Jai Richburg, J.P. Gilchrist. An offensive line that is massive and 8 deep. And that had the addition of J.B. Shabazz from Oak Grove, who's a junior this year, and he's a D1 recruit. I don't know, he's already gotten a lot of big offers. So that, to me, is going to be interesting to see. The running back crew, I understand they might have lost one of those running backs yesterday.
Yeah. So they didn't want to talk about it on the situation. They didn't want to talk about it on the Nest last night, but I can. So I don't know the specifics, but Jalen Moore, the running back that transferred from Reagan to East at the beginning of the offseason, just kind of out of the blue decided to transfer to High Point Christian yesterday, like literally week of game 1. So
I heard, and So
Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. But they do have
they got Jalen
Murray, who had transferred in from Reynolds the year before. He's back for senior year, and then they have this kid Cannon Rottweiler, who's been their bellwether back for the JV squad the past 2 years, and they've been undefeated the past couple of years. He's come up to varsity as a junior, and he's got a little Will Shipley kind of thing going on in terms of how he runs the football. So plus, like you said, the offensive line is massive. So they've got a couple other kids that we don't know by name yet because they're coming up from JV or whatnot. But they should be able to absorb the loss of Moore fairly well. It was always going to be a platoon of running backs. They were never going to have just one dude with 40 carries. That's not how they operate their offense.
And I think for me, the curious part for me is that's a lot to kind of take in Monday of week 1 and how they kind of respond to that. I think to me is what's going to be the interesting thing mentally. I think it's a mental thing. I know they've got the talent. I don't question that one bit. Coach Willard's going to have those guys ready, and I know they're raring to go. But losing somebody of that prominence, just the way they did, I guess, so soon before the first game, I think it's I don't know. It's crazy to me. It's like you went through all the work during the summer and all the off-season workouts and all the grind, and you finally get to the fun part, and then you transfer to a different school. It's just and the competition level is different too. No knock to High Point Christian. We actually did their games during COVID when they weren't letting people into the stadium. That's actually what was one of the first things Tobacco Road did, was doing High Point Christian home games, and they play that Rabun Gap school that's like kind of almost in Georgia, like out in the mountains, like in the woods, and they're always ranked really high. And I'm still trying to pull that poll for Max Preps, but other than that, the competition level is going to be different too. But hey, more power to you. You can go wherever you choose to go. But out of all the schools I can think of that I cover here in the area, if there was a team equipped to kind of absorb that, it would probably be East, because they don't run one back or two backs. They have a platoon of backs that they run every year. It's never different. It's just the names are different. Yeah, I saw Rottweiler twice last year in JV games, and I knew he was going to be ascending to varsity this season. And real impressed. He's just a powerful, stocky running back.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Coach Willard after one of the games. I'm like, "Is that really his name?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, that's not a football name."
Yeah, sweet me and Rod Funderburk, because he got up. He was an 8-quarter kid last year, so they were bringing him up towards the end of the season. And we saw him freshman year. 2 years ago, they were bringing him up towards the end of the year. And when we saw his name on the roster, we were like, "Really? That's his name?" So shout out to his mom, Nikki, who's a sponsor of East Forsyth Sports Network and Tobacco Road. But yeah, Rottweiler's his last name, and he's a dog. He's gonna be a huge part of the Eagles this year.
Yeah, I imagine he'll pick up a lot more reps now.
Probably so. Yeah.
3 featured backs to 2 now for sure, and then I'm sure they'll find somebody else as well.
Yeah, there's always somebody waiting in the wings. So East taking on Heritage, they won pretty handily last year. We did that game. It was out in Raleigh to open the season. Heritage coming here to Kernersville to the Nest. I'm still looking for this poll, but I think East was in like 6. Yeah, here it is. I found it. So I'm pulling up the Max Preps poll, and this is a poll that kind of goes across all classes, and there's some private schools in here also. So they've mixed it all together. And as we pull up the poll from Max Preps, you can see here Providence Day is ranked number 1 going into the season. They've already played a game. They're 1-0. They're taking on number 2 Weddington tonight, if I'm not mistaken, down in Charlotte. Actually, I thought about going down to watch a little bit of that game, but I've got it's tomorrow, Thursday night. And I thought about going down there to see it, but it's Independence taking on Myers Park too. So it's a doubleheader they got going on down there. Weddington and 2, the defending 4A state champions. That Rabun Gap Nokochi team that I was talking about, they're ranked 3rd. They're the first independent private school that pops up. Butler comes in 4th. Huff comes in 5th. Then you get your first triad team in Grimsley at 6. Independence that made it to the Western semifinals, the Western regional final last year against Weddington, and fell to Weddington, come in at 7. East Forsyth at 8th. Wilmington Hoggard at 9, and Cardinal Gibbons at 10. Rollsville, who Grimsley will see week 2, comes in at 11, and Cleveland out in Clayton County comes in at 12. So just 2 teams from the triad in the top 10, Grimsley and East Forsyth, who we kind of expected. I actually expected to see Dudley nearby here, and I'm scrolling through. They're down here at number 21.
Yeah.
They brought like all their skill position players back. My understanding, the quarterback, Adamore, he's gone, but
Graduated, right? So that might
the guy that's there now, wasn't he Faison Brandon's backup at Grimsley?
I believe that's what I heard. Yes.
So we'll see how they do. That might just be one where they're waiting to see how Dudley performs. Then Reedsville at 20. Of course, they lost Dre Hairston to Providence Day after winning the 2A championship last year in football and basketball. So there's not a lot of it's just Grimsley, East Forsyth 6 and 8, and then you get down to Dudley at 21 and Reedsville at 20. Those are the only triad teams, or Mount Tabor at 25 here, coming in at the bottom of the 25. So there's really
that's an all classification poll there. So
yeah, and a lot of this too. This will change after they start playing some games because I believe they use RPI in this. So this will start shifting around here a little bit. And the past 2 years, last year, Grimsley was ranked number 1 in that poll the entire year until they got towards the end of their schedule and played some of the weaker teams in their conference, and it knocked them down. And I believe it moved up Watauga to number 1 right there at the end of the year. And Watauga was the number 1 overall seed in the West, which drove people nuts. The year before that, same thing happened, but to East Forsyth, they were undefeated in 2022 with number 1 the whole season. And then they got to the bottom part of their schedule. They played a winless Parkland team and it's like a 1-win Reynolds team or something like that. And it dropped their RPI to like 3 or 5 or something. And I think it was Huff or somebody that ended up getting like the 1 seed. And we ended up having to go on the road. So that can happen. Really thing you can do with your show is just win. But thoughts on that 10 there? They get that right with Grimsley and East where they are 6 and 8, or would you swap that?
Well, again, it's an all classification poll. So if it was 4A, I think they would both probably be in the top 5.
I would think so. And I probably can.
And I would say Tabor would probably be in the top 10 if it was just 4A schools and didn't include the independents and everything else. So.
Yeah, here we go. If it's just 4A, they got Weddington and defending champ number 1, and they might have the best defense in the whole state. Thomas Davis Jr. and those guys. Butler at 2, Huff 3, Grimsley 4, Independence 5, East Forsyth 6. Then you got Hoggard, Cardinal Gibbons, Rollsville, Cleveland in that top 10. Those are the only 2 in the triad until you get to Mount Tabor at 17.
Okay, I think that's a little better for Mount Tabor.
Yeah, it's a little better. West Forsyth comes in at 21.
Yep.
And Davie at 24.
Okay.
So you got some representation at the bottom part of the poll. But yeah, East and Grimsley in that top 6 as we start the season. Grimsley hasn't lost a conference game in the Metro since 2019. So if they can get out of those first 3 weeks, 3-0, 2-1, whatever, it sets up nice for them going forward. What was your third game? So you mentioned East Forsyth Heritage. That game is on. It's not on WTOB. There's a different game that's the game of the week this week that we'll get to in just a bit. But East Forsyth Ledford, you can get to it on the East Forsyth Sports Network at tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. You can stream it there. I think we'll be on the main player, so you can check that game out. No pregame, 7 o'clock kickoff from the Nest. Me and Rod Funderburk on the call. Give me your third matchup, Mark, as we preview the beginning of the 2024 high school football season starting this Friday.
I'm gonna flip a coin here. Let's see what we up because I got about 3 more I want to talk about. But
let's do it.
Let's go with number 3. Then we'll start with Walkertown and Atkins. And the reason I'm intrigued by Walkertown is the new coach this year in Trip Honeycutt. He's from the Kevin Wallace and Eric Westberg coaching tree. Likes to sling it around. Has some success at South Davidson, which is one of those programs where you don't nearly usually find a lot of success with. Turned them into a playoff team. Both years he was there in the 1A classification. Spent a little time with Tripp yesterday. Got some talented running backs and receivers, and Mitron Curry being one of those, running back and linebacker Cameron Cartledge, who's a good-sized young man. Still trying to settle on a quarterback. He's still kind of trying to figure out. He's got 3 guys kind of vying for that spot. He might a couple of them during Friday night's game. But I'm excited. I think he's excited to see. He said they look good in a few scrimmages they had over the summer. Atkins has Garrison Dibble, who's already committed to Navy to play college football. big 6'3", 225-pound linebacker, defensive end. Second year for Coach Jamar Behringer there. And it's 2 local teams, so I think that'll be a fun one to watch, keep an eye on, see how Walkertown does, especially. Then I really think Oak Grove and Southwest Guilford is another.
Wait, hold on before you go to the next one. I just want to shout out to Tripp. I've been speaking back and forth with him. He actually messaged me after one of those scrimmages and was like, "Hey, I think we got a little squad over here." I'm like, "Yeah, I was actually not bringing you in." I actually know Tripp through his wife Carly, who coaches softball at East Forsyth, and we do softball games for them. And she taught my kid a couple of classes in PE. So I know Carly, know Tripp pretty well. See Tripp a lot at East Forsyth functions. If Carly's at the gym or something like that, he might be there with her. So I'm looking forward to checking out Walkertown this year. Also know Jomar from over at Atkins. He was down at Chambers actually as the AD for a couple of years. Went to East Forsyth. He's older than I am. But I know him, his younger brother, me and him graduated high school together. So it's crazy when you kind of run across people that, your paths haven't crossed in like 20, 30 years. And now they're like in different spots or whatever. Shout out to Atkins. I know Jomar's going to do a great job building up that program out there in East Winston too. So you were about to mention Oak Grove and Southwest Guilford.
Yep. I think that's an interesting game. On Oak Grove's end, it's kind of going to be a new look team. Connor Creech, their quarterback for the last 2 or 3 years, graduated. He provided a lot of offense for them the last 2 years on the ground and through the air. Oak Grove got to the 3rd round of the playoffs last year in 3A. So I think they're going to kind of be more of a run-oriented team this year. Carson Williams, their returning senior running back, put up a lot of yards on the ground for them last year. He has a massive offensive line. Coach Creason is an offensive line guy. Massive line there. Ben Bulware, I think, is the big name. He just got offered to Florida State, I saw yesterday. So I'm interested to see how Oak Grove kind of looks this season without Connor as the quarterback. Southwest Guilford, we talked to Coach a couple weeks ago. Got that triple option that every coach loves.
Oh gosh,
it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to keep up with as we do through the year. So I know they lost a couple of key personnel though, so we'll see how things shake out for them.
We have that game also live from the Ranch. Matter of fact, the Ranch, the new coaches show for Southwest Guilford, and head coach Marlon White debuts tonight at 7:30 at Kickback Jacks in High Point on Penny Road. I'll be out there. Max Wallace will be hosting. Max and Colin Wood will be the play-by-play folks for Southwest Guilford home games this year. That game is on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Also, just stream it from your phone or laptop or whatever device you have there. I believe they're doing a pregame, so they should be on at 7. Kickoff at 7:30. Guilford County kicks off at 7:30. Forsyth usually kicks off at 7. So that coverage will begin at 7 o'clock for Oak Grove and Southwest Guilford on the Southwest Guilford Network. And you said you had a couple more.
One more I'll talk about. 2 local teams, Glenn, Ledford, going at it. It's the first game for Tommy Green at Glenn as a head coach. He's been a long time assistant there, I think for 8 or 9 years before he got the head coaching gig over the summer when Coach Stevenson left.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for him. He's got a few new names in there that came in. Brady Robinson will be the starting quarterback. He played the last 2 years for Reagan's JV team, and he looked pretty good the couple times I did see him play. Got a great linebacker in Isaiah Buford, who was an all-area member of the Journals football team last year, led Glean in tackles as a sophomore. And I think Coach Green is expecting big things from Joel Hayes. He's a combo running back, wide receiver, who I think is going to figure more prominently into the offense this year. So
that game, Ledford. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that game is actually the WTOB Forsyth County game of the week that we have. So that game will be on terrestrial radio in Forsyth County, 980 AM, 96.7 FM if you're in Winston or surrounding areas, or you can just go to Back Road, find the player for it, and listen to it there. It's on the Glen Sports Network, and that will be a 7 o'clock kickoff, I believe. Mike Fanning and James Willamy will be in the house for that one, calling that game for WTOB on the Glen Sports Network. I don't know a whole lot about Ledford, and to your point with Glen, it's like a brand new start. I tried to go on Max Preps and look up their stuff, and they didn't really have their players listed on there, so I couldn't really see who was retained, who left, that kind of thing. Coach Stevenson is at Ragsdale. He was at Eastern Guilford. Something happened. Now he's at Ragsdale, so he'll be in the Metro against Grimsley and Southwest Guilford and stuff. So we'll run across Coach Stevenson in our travels covering Grimsley and Southwest this year in the Metro 4A.
I believe they play. I believe Ragsdale and Glenn play week 2 at Ragsdale. So
you're right. Because I've got we only do the Glenn home game, so we've got them. Ledford, Glenn's got a tough little first 3 weeks too. They got Ledford to start off at home, the Ragsdale week 2, but that's away in Jamestown, and then they've got Chambers coming up here for week 3. So we'll know a lot about Glenn after the 3rd week. Also, mentioned Grimsley, Tabor, Rollsville, Reagan. East has Heritage, Jack Britt at home, and then they go up to Asheville, AC Reynolds week 3. So that'll be a test for them. They get out of that and they're 3-0 going into conference play. It shapes up pretty nice for them.
That's going to AC Reynolds this week. So I'm sure Coach Walsh and Coach Willard will exchange film.
Yeah. So yeah, Wes is going up to AC Reynolds. We're doing select West Forsyth games. We've got them on the schedule for that week 3 West Forsyth Weddington matchup in the Village. They'll be doing that game. JP Mundy will be on the call for that. What else do we have for West? Davie, October 18th, it looks like, and maybe Reynolds, October 25th. So we got a couple of West Forsyth home games on the schedule as well. So definitely keep up with that. So we've mentioned East Forsyth Heritage. You mentioned Grimsley, Mount Tabor, Glen Ledford, Southwest Guilford, Oak Grove. Any other ones you got there? Or
the only other one I would say, for as far as first-year coaches, Cody Bowman is the new coach at North Davidson. It's his first year there. He played at West Forsyth under Adrian Snow back in the mid-2000s. He's coached a couple of years in college, so I'm interested to see kind of how North Davidson – I've seen them at a couple of 7-on-7s over the summer. I'm interested to see how they kind of rebuild after last year. They had kind of a wonky season. The coach stepped down, I think, midway through the year, and Cody was the interim coach for the last 4 or 5 games. But now it's his team, his program, and he's, I know, putting his own stamp on things. So I always pull for those guys in their first games as head coaches. I like to see them get that first win behind them. So
there's a lot. There's a whole lot going on week 1 here of the high school football season. Again, Tobacco Road. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 live games we're going to be doing Friday. There's a couple of weeks where we've got 5 going on. I think week 3 is like ground zero. I was looking over at the schedule. So like week 3, we're running East Forsyth, AC Reynolds, Grimsley, Reagan, Glen Chambers, West Forsyth, Weddington, Southwest Guilford, High Point Central. So like, I mean, it's just like ridiculous. The Triad, it seems like week 3 they kind of branch out and they go find somebody hard to play, and then everybody's on a bye like for week 4.
Yeah, I think they all kind of stack it up the first 3 weeks, take a week off, and then they're in conference play.
They're in conference play, yeah, because then after that you go right into it. East Forsyth Reagan, Grimsley Southeast Guilford, Southwest Guilford Page. So it's gonna stack up as I'm looking through the schedule. And we did the schedule preview a couple of weeks back, and you can find that on the YouTube channel for Tobacco Road Sports Radio and see the entire schedule for TOB and COG. Some of the games that I'm looking at that poke out: East Forsyth, Mount Tabor, October the 4th. Grimsley, Page, of course, October 25th. Grimsley, Southwest Guilford might be interesting, depending on what Coach White does with this Cowboy team on October 18th. And then Glen Chambers, we'll see how Tommy Green's team stacks up against a perennial Charlotte power in Chambers. Glen Reagan is on the schedule. Glen Mount Tabor is on the schedule. And, of course, Glen East Forsyth. So you got all those there. And then you've got Southwest Guilford and Page September 20th. And Southwest Guilford also hosts Ragsdale on the 25th of October. So there's a bunch of games going on. You can catch the replay of Titans Talk from Monday night. And this is Whirly Nation from Monday night. The talk shows for West Forsyth and Grimsley, respectively. They're on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Podcast Network. Just go to Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Type those titles in. They'll pop up for you. Again, I have to apologize. The recording for the Nest last night messed up. So there is no recording for the Nest for me to put out, unfortunately. Shout out to offensive coordinator Ronnie Horton, and I forgot the defense coordinator's name. Derek Sharp, if I'm not mistaken. Sharp?
No, Derek.
No. Well, I thought my mind's Bryant. I'm sorry, Coach Bryant. Mine just like went.
There's
So
nothing on Desmond.
I don't have the recording from last night, which is bad, which is really bad because I let them go over too. They went like an hour and a half last night, so I do not have it. We'll make up for that this upcoming show next week, but that's every Tuesday night at J Peppers in Kernersville. If you ever want to come out there, want to come out and show support for Southwest Guilford, it's tonight at Kickback Jacks in High Point on Penny Road, right off of Highway 68. I'll be there. Max Wallace will be hosting, and come out and show support from the Cowboys. Anything else you want to throw in there before we get out of here for this Wednesday?
One team I neglected, and I apologize to the Raider Nation, but Reagan, I think, opens up Marvin Ridge, a pretty good team from down Charlotte way.
Yeah.
Josh McGee has a pretty stacked schedule himself the first 3 weeks of the season.
They do. They got Grimsley in there, so yeah.
Grimsley week 3, and I'm very interested to see how Reagan kind of responds. I know they lost a couple of key guys from last season. They still got quarterback Jacob Smith, who's committed to NC State for baseball, and I think football as well now.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw that too.
So they've got some pieces. So I'm interested to see how Reagan kind of does this season as well.
So there you have it. That's your Wednesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show, high school football preview. You can, if you didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing live, you can catch it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. We will be back Friday, our NFL college football blowout. We actually got a couple of college football games about to start this weekend, so we'll get into that. I believe former NFL safety George Teague will be with me, as well as Inside the Vault host Ryan Smith, and we'll get into some NFL conversations as well, as that's coming right up around the bend. So for Marc Pruitt, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Desmond Johnson Show. We'll see you Friday.